on Wednesday ruled on a case called McCutcheon versus the FEC. Now, Sean McCutcheon, a little bit of background here. Sean McCutcheon is an Alabama Republican activist and CEO that loves giving money to conservatives in order to help get them elected. Now, after the Citizens United ruling in 2010 that weakened campaign finance laws, Sean McCutcheon decided to file a new suit to weaken them further. He partnered up with none other than Mitch McConnell to challenge the aggregate limits on campaign donations that were posed by some of our campaign laws. Now, those limits were that you could only spend $123,200 on all political donations for the entire cycle. That includes a cap of $48,600 for contributions directly to candidates. Citizens United already allowed rich donors to give unlimited amounts of money to candidates through something called PACs and super PACs, which are considered, of course, independent expenditures. These super PACs are considered 501c3s, which are supposed to be social welfare groups. That's an odd thing to call them, but social welfare groups. Follow me? Now, what this decision does is it removes the caps on aggregate spending on elections from donors. The individual donation cap is still there. You can only still give $2,600 to directly to a candidate. But what this ruling will allow you to do is to give that maximum to everybody. Now, without the cap on aggregate spending on campaigns, someone like Sheldon Adelson, Foster Friess, or from the left, George Soros, or Warren Buffett, will be able to blanket the entire party or both parties with campaign cash. Add that with Citizens United, you literally will have a glut of money in politics. Washington will pretty much be drowning in campaign cash, both from these PACs and super PACs, in the form of unlimited independent expenditures and direct donations to every candidate. That will have the effect of giving a lot of wealthy donors much more sway. But it's not individual donors that will win entirely. You will also have corporations. Now remember, in Buckley v. Vallejo, money was ruled free speech and protected by the First Amendment. The court's ruling says these limits on free speech are unconstitutional. In Bellotti v. First National Bank of Boston, corporations were also considered human persons or human beings with First Amendment rights. So now, according to our laws, corporations are people, money is speech, and because of that, corporations can spend an unlimited amount of money on elections. Individuals have no limits on how many politicians they can buy, and any limits on campaign spending are unconstitutional. What are your guys' thoughts on this ruling?
Just a quick correction. Super PACs, not all super PACs are 501c3s. Actually, none of them are 501c3s. They would be 501c4s, but not all of them are 501c4s. Like, so some of them are taxed and all that. The 501c4s are used to put money in anonymously into, like, campaign ads or whatever.
That's the dark money, right?
Yeah. So about this ruling, it's bad, right? But it's not as terrible as everybody's making it out to be. Like, they really got rid of one arbitrary restriction in a process that already has a bunch of like restrictions removed. Like, after the super PACs exist, there's no like real reason to limit how many candidates you could donate to. And I actually might even agree with this ruling specifically just based on the Citizens United case, because it's kind of pointless. And to be clear, they did keep the individual caps, so like something remains.
No, but they didn't. That's complete. There's such an obvious loophole workaround, because you can give without an individual cap to the party or to committees. And so now all the party leaders have to do, Democrat and Republican alike, is form a committee that has every single member of their party in it. And you, instead of giving $5,000 to each senator or congressman, you can give the total amount to the party, and the party can redirect it to whichever one they jolly well please, because there is no limit as to how much a party can spend on a candidate. Whatever they have in their coffers, they can funnel towards a candidate in exuberant amounts. And so what this is going to do, you can look at it two ways. It can be good, it can be bad. Those of us who watch House of Cards and the news will probably only see this as a bad thing. But what this does is it eliminates dissent in the parties. Because now the people, as much as I disagree with them, people on the right, like the Tea Party, their dissent shut down the government. I think that's a horrible, horrible thing. But, there's also people like that on the left, and you've got, used to have guys like Ron Paul who were crazy on some issues but dead on other issues. And their dissent was, made them rock stars and gave them a voice much more powerful than, being one of 535 congressmen. Now those guys, that rock star status is going to be in jeopardy because all the party has to do is say, hey, toe the line or we're funneling money around you to other people. They become irrelevant. The government's going to work a lot more smoothly. It's going to be a lot more efficient. But I don't know that this is the way to do it. And the whole idea that money is free speech is just idiotic. Like, that's not democracy. That's Animal Farm. You can just kind of twist the maxim, everyone is created equal, but some people are more equal than others. That great line in Animal Farm. Well, here it's everybody has freedom of speech, but some people have more free speech than others. And that's not democracy. I mean, that's just straight up dystopian literature, and it's right here. It's our American government now.
Okay. Well, I mean, I kind of agree with Sean that it's not as big a deal as people in the media are making it out to be. I mean, the horse of democracy has already been flogged to death in America. And now this kind of McCutcheon ruling is just kind of kicking it whilst it's already dead. It's not really making a bad situation that much worse. It's already a terrible situation. Now, here in the UK, independent organisations, I think it's in the 12 months leading up to a general election, they can only give a maximum of $1.6 million. That's the most they can give, and they're stuck by that. And any donation over £5,000, so about $8,000, they have to declare that. There's no dark money. It's much more stringent, and even opposition parties, they receive public funding as well, because those in power, they have the civil service who can help them out and stuff. So we have kind of semi-public funded elections here, whereas in America, you've just completely kind of sold out your democracy and have converted it now. It's not quite there yet. There's still a few more, probably one or two Supreme Court rulings that need to come before you're a complete 100% plutocracy, but you are going down that path, and it's a bloody shame.
Right. Our democracy isn't dead; it just got sold. So that's pretty much what I agree with. And look,
I'm gonna have to disagree with Jordan's point that it crushes dissent. Before Citizens United, in between the 70s when we started passing campaign finance regulations and Citizens United, incumbents had a 4-to-1 money advantage because they had better fundraising infrastructure, because the campaign finance reform made it more difficult to raise money if you weren't already in office. Before any of that, it used to be a 1.5 to 1 the incumbent's advantage over a normal person. And since Citizens United, candidates like Mitch McConnell and the guy that Mike Lee primaried, they are more in jeopardy. So it actually helps people going after incumbents because you can have this PAC spend on your behalf. So I don't know how much worse any of these decisions have made our system, because it used to be there was a lot of money in politics, and it would be extremely pointed towards the incumbent. So we'd have the senators forever and ever. After Citizens United, it became easier to challenge a politician, and that's kind of a good thing.
But we're not talking about Citizens. I mean, we are in the greater scope. My point was not about what Citizens United is going to do all of a sudden. My point is about what this ruling does. This ruling gives party leadership power that Citizens United gave to corporate-backed people, even if they were challenging incumbents. So hey, maybe it's an equalizer. Maybe this does help equalize Citizens United in some way.
No. I just want to kind of challenge you and Sean both. Two bad things don't equal a good thing. Look, the reason that I don't think money should be speech is because money allows people with more money to have more speech than everyone else. It's unequal. It distorts sort of the playing field. It makes it so that your government is more represented by, or more representative of larger interests in people with more wealth than regular people, right? And that's the problem. It drowns out when you have so much money in the system. It drowns out everything else, and that's corruption, and that's a huge problem. You can't have a democracy or a representative republic based on only representing a very, very small amount of people, a small amount of rich people. That's not how this thing is supposed to work. And so this ruling just reinforces that notion that no, we only want to listen to the wealthiest among us because that's who signs our paychecks. Are they working for us, the people, or are they working for someone else? And that's the whole
I think, I separate this ruling from Citizens United because I agree with Citizens United. I'm a little more torn on this one because I think that the Congress should be able to regulate how they themselves receive money, right? But to me, Citizens United, like, the basis of that case was the government trying to ban a movie, and that's like the obvious wrong side.
And when you're following the logic of Citizens United, it makes only sense that they remove this based on their interpretation of the ruling, right? Based on their ruling of Citizens United, it made a lot of sense for them to actually do this. Now, it's horrible. It's a horrible thing, and it's terrible for our government and basically our politics.
We should also point out that Citizens United was not the first domino to fall either. Like, it was a big one, but it was already down the line in the, like, it's the one we talked about at the time. Yeah, but again, it's not the first. Whenever this ruling came out, the quote is, that there is no correlation, or what's the exact quote, between giving money and corruption, or, I'm paraphrasing here. What's funny is, just a couple days ago, before this ruling came out, on my drive to work, I listened to a story on NPR that was about how you can plot out such a direct correlation between how much money you give to a senator or congressman and how much access you have to that congressman, all the way down to you can make a chart of how much money you get and know where that person, not only the likelihood of them getting to actually meet someone in the office, but where in the office they'll meet, versus a couch in the lobby versus actually meeting in the office, and who they'll meet, a junior staffer, chief of staff, or the actual representative himself. You can plot that out with pretty good accuracy, and there are even businesses now that plan that for you and tell you how much you have to spend to get to the person. That's an industry now. The week NPR runs this story, the Supreme Court of the United States of America makes a ruling that says that doesn't exist.
And how does that not have the appearance of corruption? Remember, they kind of had to rejigger the word corruption and what it meant in order to fit these rulings. So they interpreted the word corruption different than what it was traditionally, defined as, in order to fit these rulings. That's why these rulings are terrible.
Right.
But I guess my final point is that, I'm just wondering what's next. Will the $2,600 individual limit be next? And I'm kind of make a bold prediction is that I think that someone is going to challenge that limit. Because why not? Based on the logic of these last couple of rulings, I see that might be inevitable. So just watch out for that. I want to see if one of my bold predictions is correct or not. But I'm hoping that I'm wrong.
They did rule 8-1 to keep that, which Clarence Thomas is probably the worst of all the justices. But another point I want to bring up is, how can Mitch McConnell be a plaintiff in this case while he's an active senator? Isn't that kind of a conflict of interest?
You would think. You would think that is. But yeah, speaking of Clarence Thomas, he is on record saying that, hey, this ruling, I definitely would have gone farther. I would have gotten rid of all the barriers. That's just something to think about. Seems like he's only really invested in something when it comes to, backing big money in politics or corporations. It's kind of funny.
Oh, and one more thing. This could totally backfire. This is why I'm not it's the end of the world ruling. Because if what Jordan said is true, and you could donate to a committee and like unlimited amount. All it takes is one crazy billionaire to donate to like the Green Party committee or the Libertarian Party committee, and then the two parties who've been trying to keep people out for decades, if not centuries, or a century, will rue the day that they appointed these justices.
Well, I don't think it's unlimited. I still think there's like a $2.3 million limit. I'd have to fact check myself on that. But I don't see that happening because the whole purpose of this is you getting something in return. So like by donating a few $1 million to a party with no clout, you're not going to get it. Like you're not affecting leadership. So I don't see that happening. It'd be great if it did, I guess. I don't know.
Kind of the upside to this ruling is because people are finding it so egregious, is that people are going to look to challenge it, and the only thing left to say is wolf-pack.com.